on the metaverse. Sorry. So we'll be discussing about metaverse in India, a glimpse into the future. I'm Avinash. I'm one of the founders of Global Talent Exchange. We are a global platform mobilizing emerging tech talent from skill-rich areas to areas with skill shortages. Technology today is pushing the boundaries of human possibilities and working towards making life better across the world by accelerating social and financial inclusion. It has also taken the critical task of making people and the planet healthier. With India emerging as one of the largest technology hubs and companies in India chasing these audacious goals, it brings emerging tech at the forefront. The idea, of course, of this series is to trigger an exchange of viewpoints from experts like yourselves and see how we are placed as a nation to seize the opportunity in each of these emerging tech areas. With Metaverse, it seems like a chapter of a classic, science fiction, book. We've arrived at the Metaverse. One of the results of technology is continuous evolution. Years of innovation has brought the onset of increasingly virtual worlds, access through games that leverage cryptocurrencies, NFTs, social networks, and augmented reality applications. These, along with other tech and digital innovations, have spurred the growth and expansion of a virtual world. The metaverse, while still in the relatively early stages of development, is an all-encompassing virtual world. Covers multiple use cases and many still, kind of being tested across industries. Yes, it is promising, but like any other world, real or digital, it comes with a set of own challenges. How do we navigate this virtual world that is still taking shape? Where are we as a country compared to the rest of the world? So we will look at this, going in the next couple of hours. So awesome to have, great minds like yourselves. Lovely to also have Achyuta, who's kind of just concluded a research on this. So to lead this discussion, we have Achyuta Ghosh, who's the head of research at NASSCOM. He has over 19 years of professional experience in analytics, research, and consulting. He's an active technology evangelist and has assisted Fortune 500 companies and investors with strategic insights on digital transformation and its impact on business strategy, the future of work, and global sourcing. In his current role, he actively works with different industry stakeholders on driving innovation and developing the roadmap in disruptive technology areas such as artificial intelligence, IoT, blockchain, robotics, and virtual reality for the Indian IT and BPM industry. Prior to NASSCOM, Achyuta led the smart cities business for Ford Smart Mobility in India, where he collaborated with the Indian smart cities to understand their unique transportation challenges and designed innovative solutions through partnerships and in-house technology product development. He has also worked in technology organizations such as Frost & Sullivan, Genpact, and WNS in various leadership consulting roles. Over to you, Achyuta.
Thanks, Avinash. Thanks, Sharanita. I'm really honored to be a frequent collaborator of some sorts with Global Talent Exchange now over the last 2-3 interactions that we have had. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this introduction to one of the hottest topics in the tech world today, Metaverse. In this discussion arranged by Global Talent Exchange and titled Metaverse in India, a glimpse into the future, we will explore the state of Metaverse, understand some key use cases, see what India's role can be in this upcoming technology through the eyes of key subject matter experts such as you. Just to set the context, a few thoughts before I kind of hand off to our speakers. What's Metaverse? Metaverse is the next iteration of the internet that seamlessly combines our digital and physical lives so that users have interactive and immersive experiences which is interoperable across worlds, and that's how we define it. And Metaverse has come to denote a convergence of technologies which have existed for decades, and some of them are new technologies. Four key attributes that we've defined as that of metaverse is that it is persistent. It is an immersive visual virtual world. Second is interoperability, which actually helps users move their virtual identities, assets, data from one to another. The third is concurrency, the ability to have a large number of users to coexist in the same world. And fourth is agency, users having agency, identity in virtual worlds. So I think these four, parameters kind of combine together for metaverse. But the next question is metaverse really new? I think it's not really, right? I mean, many of you would probably remember Tron, the movie in 1982, which was one of the first movies to actually imagine a digital reality. I think in 92, 10 years later, Neil Stephenson coined the term metaverse in his science fiction book Snow Crush. And then we had Matrix in 1999, right, where we imagined humans living in a virtual reality. One of my most favorite movies, Ready Player One, came in 2018, Steven Spielberg movie, which actually depicted a virtual reality world. So I think it's something that we have been talking for a long time. Investments have happened, but why is the time right now? I mean, why do you say that this is the right time for metaverse to really kick off? Key drivers, you see the technology revolution right at our doorsteps. Communication, connectivity, the shift in a consumer mindset, right? Almost 8 to 9 hours are spent by Gen Z looking at their screens all day. It's almost equivalent to the amount of time they sleep. Wider set of use cases. There is a lot of use cases that are being developed across industries and companies. I'll share some of that in the discussion also. There is a demographic tailwind. I mean, the world is younger to a large extent. There are more than 3 billion people who are actively playing games. That's a huge demographic tailwind to the sector, right? And there is this consumer-led, brand marketing, this content creators that are there across platforms, which is actually adding to it. In fact, some of an analysis shows that in the first half of last year, 2022, almost $120 billion of PEVC investments and M&A commitments were announced on the topic. So that's a huge number. And I'm just talking about the first half. Additionally, when we surveyed technology companies, almost 57% of the CEOs, they came back saying that they have active metaverse initiatives underway. Some of them are internal, some of them are for their clients, but 57% of the CXOs are already active in this. But before we get into adoption, which is one of the key themes of the session, we have a galaxy of subject matter experts lined up. So let me quickly introduce them to set the ball rolling. We have Jasmine Gorimar, who's a digital transformation strategist at Mahindra Group, specializes in digital strategy, transformation of business units, and currently implementing the metaverse to enhance CX and digital sales across business units. We have Rahul Sethi, who's the founder and metaverse coach at Metaverse 911. Rahul is the founder. He works closely with top business executives from best known global brands and conglomerates in peer advisory groups and one-on-one sessions. We also have Siddharth Besbora. He's the co-founder, CEO, CPO at Metavox. Metavox is a Web3 sports tech startup building blockchain, Web3 games, and metaverse fan engagement collectibles in a market product solution. We also have Sakti Kathirasan, leads the metaverse business in India and globally, heading metaverse delivery for Accenture. He has more than 30 years of experience in IT, helping global clients implement strategic IT. We have Shubhra Kathuria, who's a senior director at EY Wavespace, the innovation arm of Ernst & Young, expertise in creating metaverse and Web3 experiences for companies. We also have Shovik Mazumdar, who's a transformation leader from Ascension. Shovik was earlier at Cognizant, where he incubated the emerging tech practice. At core, Shovik is an entrepreneur and he's built businesses and business units. We have Jijit Nadumari Ravi, who's working as a practice head at Tata ALXI on extended reality and metaverse. He was a former scientist at ISRO and is a published author and speaker. We also have Karthik Padmanabhan, who's the global competency head at Digital Enterprise, portfolio spanning design, marketing at Cognizant. And we have Prajot Vetiel, who's a principal architect at Fractal. He has had extensive experience in leading teams of engineers in designing and implementing, applications. And current focus areas includes metaverse, blockchain, NLP and AI. So that's a round of introductions for our speakers. Getting on to the first question, and the way I'll do it is that I'll open up the questions and anybody can, share their views. And then we move on to the next slide. The first one is around what are the real world business applications of the metaverse that you see? I mean, what kind of industries seek to benefit? What are the important ones? What are the lesser known ones? And there is a hype around metaverse. Is that really justified? I mean, I'll open up the floor for answers.
Sure, right. Yeah, go ahead, Prajot.
Yeah, thanks. So we have worked with multiple customers who are interested in the metaverse, and what we have seen is entertainment, training, R&D, and customer interaction are the major areas where there's high demand and potential growth in the short term, right? And because wherever a lot of people combine, right, and come together, and they need to be together, although they are geographically dispersed across countries, especially larger corporates which have offices across, and they want to conduct events, right, annual events, quarterly events, and you can't really fly them all to a single place, right? And other space is training, right? You have to have everybody in one place, and you want to explain concepts visually, right, instead of like in teams and all, right? So this is like a two large areas, and R&D where you have to imagine things that don't exist, right? Design of cars. So you see 2D CAD-like things on 2D screens, but can you visualize it in 3D? In things that you can't go to, right? You can't imagine going to Mars or going inside the human body, right? To visualize what happens when you take a drug or a molecule. So those kind of scenarios are very, especially in the short term, right? That directly applicable for metaverse. Yeah, that's my take on that. Yeah,
I have seen a lot of interest in retail that is coming up because the metaverse kind of collaborative and multi-people participation kind of an environment helps us to transform something like a normal Web2 based kind of a shopping experience into a highly immersive and interactive kind of a Web3 kind of experience. So that's something I have seen a lot of interest coming from different retail, and then there is a broadcasting related use cases coming up. And of course, as the previous speaker mentioned, entertainment is the biggest pie. Definitely, I have no doubt about it. And also game related metaverses and industrial metaverse is another aspect where the industries are looking at their industrial arena, industrial units, bringing those into the metaverse. These are all, but maybe into 1, 2, 3, 4 years into the future to be mature. That's what my feeling is.
I'll go next. Achyut, you asked two questions, like what are the use cases and what is the hype about metaverse? So I'll probably take the second question and then probably go ahead. So how do we define metaverse? I think we don't have one definition which the entire panel would agree upon today. But the way I look at metaverse is, I break it into the components, right? What are the components of metaverse? One is you definitely have virtual reality, which is the UI for your metaverse. Then you have gaming, which is mostly the interaction point of your metaverse. Then you have social collaboration where you bring a lot of people, etc. and all. Then you have blockchain as an infrastructure, which provides you the infrastructure for the metaverse. 5G is basically the fiber, that is the reason why metaverse is boomed across the globe. I would like, and Web3 is the economy part of it. Now, all this put together as a confluence is what defines metaverse today. And there are many metaverses in the world today. So if you ask me how mature is the metaverse concept, well, it's still getting there. It is getting started. We have started using flavors of the metaverse. So for example, we are not using blockchain as an infrastructure. Most of the metaverse experience that we are still speaking are still running on a centralized server, which is a little bit anti-pattern for the metaverse standard. But the concept of metaverse is getting formalized day in and day out, and that's the reason why it's a hype. Many people are talking about it, but there are real world implications of it. And I'll explain you what we have done so far. So as the previous speaker was saying, we have to divide metaverse into three parts. One is the consumer metaverse, the marketing metaverse, which the brands are using it, and also the industrial metaverse. What we have seen in the last 1.5 years when we actually got started with the metaverse concept is the factory 4.0 and the digitization of smart factories is something which is really leveraging the concepts of metaverse and actually getting some, ROI from the investment, right? So we go to a factory, we digitize it, we create a digital twin, get all the people onboarded and say, hey, this is how it looks like, to operate a factory. This is how it looks like to how to operate a machine. These are the operational health, safety, compliance, diversity, inclusion training that you need to go. So traditionally, what the factories used to do was they used to actually stop the production line, get the people from different parts of the world, tell them this is how you should do it, and again sanitize the entire environment, and then they start the reproduction and so on. So now when you do all this thing virtually, you can do it many number of times. There are a lot of people who can collaborate and get it done, and you save a lot of productivity cost. Now that's the message that we use, and we went and spoke to the factories, and trust me, there are a couple of largest pharma customers with whom we are actually developing these kind of solution, and they're actually getting benefit. And I think that's where the power of metaverse is, right? Bringing people together, creating a digital twin, giving them the taste of physical world without actually have to do the expense and without actually have to control the environment. And that's where we see metaverse actually shaping and accruing ROI as a part of in the near future.
Yeah, I would add on to that. So I 100% agree. There's a huge aspect of bringing people together, especially with the limitations we faced during COVID, where a lot of us could not travel. And that's where the whole mindset around even adopting metaverse came into place, because Second Life has been there for the last several years. But at the same time, the concept of metaverse grew only in the last couple of years, and especially with Facebook rebranding to Meta. Now, there are a lot of different use cases that are being experimented in the market right now. The two that are of great interest to me, and Achyuta, to your question about, is it really hype? Is there really adoption? Is it going to stay? So the two that are of interest to me, and I'm personally using and actively driving adoption for those. So the first one being having an office in the metaverse. So especially for workforce that is remote. So in my case, my team is geographically distributed, and we have folks from across US, across Latin America. And for us, it's hard to travel every week and meet in a common location. So we have been in our office in the metaverse for the last several months, and we're actually seeing the game-changing implications of having, to your earlier point, Achyuta, a persistent virtual shared space, because now we all feel that this is our space, we belong, and that we can be there every day. And just like how we would have water cooler conversations in a physical office, we would have that. Just like how we would walk into a conference room in a physical office, we would do that. We would walk up to others' pods, or we would have our social hours, like 2 months ago when it was my birthday, we celebrated it in the metaverse. So it's actually adoption of these technologies for the right use cases. That's one. The other one that I'm seeing, and this is a lot in my discussions with telecom company and other companies that have to provide customer support, is how can they elevate their customer support? And leveraging metaverse for that is something that can enhance the end customer experience. Imagine, again, a space where customers can walk in and go line themselves up to the right problem queue, just like how they would do in a physical, let's say they have to go pay their bills to a utility company. They would go and walk to the right aisle. They can do that in the metaverse, go to the right problem area and go actually talk to a customer rep there. That's again, something very much that's getting adoption and attention of a lot of different providers. So to your question about hype, is it hype? No, because there are use cases that are starting to work and show benefits right away from the other existing technologies.
And I think you have to hand it over, Shubhra, to COVID for making people comfortable in the virtual world. And I think that's one of the offshoots of what we are seeing right now. And Shovik, thanks for pointing out that metaverse is a combination of many digital technologies coming together, whether it is AI, whether it is blockchain, whether it is everything coming together, right? I mean, I think that's what we tend to believe. People tend to say, hey, metaverse is a tech, but then metaverse is not a tech. It's an application area where multiple technologies come in. But anybody else wants to take this question?
I would. This
Yes.
is Karthik here from Cognizant. And first of all, great to be here. Thank you for pulling this panel together. Awesome discussions as well. And I kind of agree with a lot of the views that are shared in here. a few points from my side is we got to really talk about the fact, the elephant in the room fact that metaverse is kind of emerging right now. It's something that we have not got completely our full hands on. If you really take a hype cycle view to it, I would probably say it's anywhere between that peak of inflated expectations and then the trough of disillusionment. It's somewhere in between there. We probably have got huge expectations riding on metaverse, especially when Facebook renamed to Meta and so on, and there was a flurry of various things that can actually happen over there. And then we started looking at what can actually be possible, right? And we started talking to a number of our customers, right? And in the recent past, I don't think, at least if I take the last 18 months, the number of presentations that we have actually made to customers, the number of proof of concepts that we have actually developed, gone and tested out what can actually be possible. And that's probably where we are right now with every customer. I don't think there's a single client across industries, across the financial sector, healthcare and life sciences. You take retail, consumer goods, travel, hospitality, media, communications, technology. It doesn't matter, right? Every customer who we have interacted with have in some form or shape come out with some kind of a use case. They want to look at metaverse. They have, I can't say huge budgets, but certainly budgets enough to kind of explore what could be done. And we work with them. We try to kind of flesh out what's possible, create a use case, put a concept out there, double click on the concept, come up with some kind of a POC or an MVP that can work. But then again, not all of them really go and hit the mainstream, right? If I really look at metaverse, is it a legit channel like how you would have your mobile channel or a web channel for doing financial transactions? Not yet, right? Can we have a more of, but it will get there, right? What we probably need to do is go and attempt and figure out what actually happens, even go through that trough of disillusionment before it emerges out of there. And that's probably the time when we start to have a lot of the industrial use cases coming through. But we still say, don't hold back, go ahead, get your hands dirty, invest in some amount of money, build your POCs, figure out what can work. That kind of work is probably where we're getting into. However, we are also seeing a lot of the genuine use cases emerging, right? And that's probably what even Shubhra, I think, spoke about. And that comes in the space of virtual meetings, right? Looks at onboarding, for example. Looking at collaborative workspaces is not probably another area. Digital twin, certainly when we look at the Nexar world, that's another use case. So there are standard use cases that it lends itself immediately into. And then consumer engagement is probably another one, right? You can really catch on to the fancy of the metaverse and get consumers engaged onto it. Look at the new gen kids out here who can really look at saying, hey, I want to experience something new, create differentiation in the market. A lot of those use cases come out automatically. It's the long scale, full channel commerce on the metaverse, for example, that still needs to emerge, and that'll probably take a little bit of time around it. That's probably where my observations are.
Sure, thanks, and thanks for pointing this out, Karthik. In fact, I was just trying to look at the Gartner hype cycle for 2022, and what I see is metaverse there. They've put it in under the innovation trigger area, but a lot of the technologies that metaverse is made out of, that is actually coming into that peak of inflation and trough of disillusion like you talked about, right? I mean, when you look at NFT, you look at cloud data ecosystems, right? All that is there. But if you look at metaverse per se, or if you look at cybersecurity for metaverse, I think it's still there. It's just about to get started, and things have just started, moving there. So thanks for pointing that out. Shakti, you raised your hand.
Yeah, no, I just want to add on to what Karthik said, right? I totally agree with his views. In terms of the hype cycle, we do see that most of our clients are willing to invest in those metaverse use cases. So we see a lot of them asking for a strategy roadmap and wanting to know what kind of use cases would make sense for them. So just like Karthik pointed out, obviously they want that to be very unique for themselves. They don't want to do run-of-the-mill use cases. So obviously they want to understand anybody who's working with them, they want them to understand their industry, their focus, and then they want to prescribe solutions. Now, to your point, Achyuta, that while some of these technologies that existed and they might be in different hype cycle, our ability to bring them together to work for a larger use case, I think that is still, in my opinion, early stages. That is one of the reasons why, though everybody wants to create a metaverse themselves, right? Given a choice, I'm sure they want all of their consumers or their employees to jump into a metaverse and do their daily business and chores in that. But that is still, in my opinion, a year or two away, because a lot of them, just like you said about security is one part of it, but then there is a trust dimension, there is a human dimension. A lot of those are holding back them before they get into that full-scale metaverse that people are dreaming of.
No, I agree, and thanks for pointing that out, Shakti. In fact, for our report launch yesterday, we had thought of a metaverse launch. We said, okay, fine, we'll log in from somewhere, we'll put all the audience into a metaverse, but somehow with none of our partners, I think, we couldn't make that happen. So a lot of things that we talk when it comes to execution, when it comes to this topic, I think we're still not there. So thanks for pointing that out. Rahul.
Thank you. So my practical experience, since I continue to visit a lot of metaverses and I do research on them, it helps me build content. It helps me build content because I exactly know which metaverse is used for what kind of application. So even if it is events, for example, like the World Economic Forum happened about I think some 4 or 5 days back, and Amrita, who is the NFT creator based out of Dubai, she was doing a session over there. Now, it's one of the most beautiful metaverse experience I have seen in the last 6 months or a year. One of the most beautiful, most impressive. But the issue was that people were coming as avatars, and there was absolutely no boundary. So it's like you and I sitting on a Zoom, but then I come and superimpose my image on top of you, and you have no control on that. So event is happening, and you've got this NFT creator speaking about the kind of work she's doing, and the interview that she has given to CNN is being played on the TV. But there are these guys with different avatars and different costumes and whatever, and they're just flying around. So there has to be a industry use case which is built around a need, and a need has nuances. That though I have a computer, it doesn't mean I can delete all my files. Something must be there to stop me to delete, right? Or if somebody else has to. Hence, every single metaverse experience, even if we go to the next level of doing team meetings, like what Shubhra was talking, I have been a part of a couple of team meetings for a couple of metaverse companies, since my work is with them from an OEM perspective. So what I felt was every single metaverse, when I go in, takes me time to learn and adapt. So it's a new learning every time. So what really happens is that if you take X platform and you give the X platform to a set of people, change is going to be very difficult. And hence the decision-making of going towards what metaverse platform you want to choose and build your experience on top of it, whether centralized or decentralized. There is a lot of study in terms of what is it. So hence awareness remains to be the focus area. Yeah. A lot of corporates, a lot of executives coming over and saying, hey, come over and show us more. Come over, show us more. I think they're going to 20 people, 30 people, and just listening, seeing. And at some point, this will get consolidated. So around 23, I see there is going to be more maturity and some real business use cases that will come out. And all of the companies, I think the panelists who are sitting over here from such large companies, Accenture for that matter has been, I think, Shakti, one of the stalwarts. Because I saw your CEO giving the, in the last, I think, WEF for the other, the forum, and she said they ship 40,000 VR headgears and they're expecting 100,000 onboardings on the metaverse. Right. So there is this kind of, large scale implementations happening. So for your Accenture's metaverse is called what? Nth World.
Yeah, that's a new joiner onboarding experience we created. We call it as a nth floor. Yes.
Nth floor, yeah. So imagine Accenture having that particular nth floor, but when I speak to the HR leaders from different companies, other companies, I mean, they still want to know, okay, can I see nth floor? And the answer is no, that's Accenture's. You can't see it. So they'll say, okay. Now, so there is definitely more awareness amongst leadership that has to be created. And hence I see this year is a beautiful year for the metaverse opportunities and to look forward.
Thanks, Rahul. And I think there are a couple of more issues like, ROI. How does the CXO really justify the ROI on the metaverse investments? Right? I think that's something which probably is important. Technology readiness. I mean, I was talking about the launch that we had tried to plan, but somehow it did not come off. So is that technology really ready? Because you need what, 10,000 times, 1,000 times more powerful systems to really have this at scale. Third is, of course, talent. Do we have enough talent pool? Are they familiar with the 3D tools that is required? And fourth is, ability to address the societal concerns around mental health being, data privacy, environment impact, right? All those things need to be there. But Siddharth, moving on to you, your thoughts, please.
Jasmine, Jasmine, I think this question, when you just I mean, the first thing in my mind before even you press the button was, okay, over to Jasmine. I think, but moderator is Achyuta, so of course, but I think from an infra's perspective, Jasmine has done some incredible work around and tech perspective in terms of exploring tech.
Sure. I'll come back to it. I saw Siddharth's hand raised earlier, so Siddharth, over to you. Then we'll move on to Jasmine.
Thank you.
Thanks. No, I think very good inputs from everyone here. And I would talk more about the sports ecosystem because that is where I am building the capabilities for larger sports brands. And we have had some amazing experiences, coming from a product background, consumer, social, fintech payments kind of a background. We started building, initially engage with sports players, clubs, leagues, and federations back in 21. Starting with creating immersive collectibles for, NFTs for these brands. We started building this across Sandbox, Decentraland, and multiple, digital collectible platforms. And now while doing this, we started engaging with larger brands. And when engaging with these brands, what we realized that one of their major problem today is, from a sports perspective, is that they want to build capabilities quickly for the young audience, the Gen Z audience. Because if you look at the whole world, sports world, the young are getting disconnected from the actual sport. They're more involved in the gaming and esports side of things, and they're not able to, connect with the real world. That's where, these brands are very interested in kind of building capabilities for this audience. And Web3 actually solves this problem for these brands. Having said that, we are currently working with some very large brands like Manchester United. We're doing something with Olympics. We've just signed 2 partnerships with one of the largest sports OTT players. So very different kind of experiences, majorly focusing on fan engagement, gamification, and then, of course, looking at digital assets in terms of creating merchandise, ticketing. We're looking at ticketing as an opportunity there. So these are some of the use cases that we are definitely seeing from these sports brands, and we are trying to solve these problems, going forward. Yeah.
Thanks, Siddharth. Jasmine, over to you.
Thank you so much, Achyuta. Let me first answer the question on the hype cycle. I have been, as a digital transformation expert, I've been through so many such technologies, and I've been questioned n number of times, even on AI and ML, and is this a hype cycle, right? There's always one common trend. All these technologies are here to stay. What really sticks these technologies to the industry and their long-term existence is the use cases they're implemented for. Right? And if we start with that simple 1-point focus, I think we would be able to answer most of our questions. Is in the current state of affairs, we all might have different definitions of what a metaverse is. But in the current state of affairs, is a metaverse really what it was envisioned and expected to be? No, we're not there yet. We have huge limitations, infrastructural limitations. Right? Even our use cases, no matter where they've been implemented, barring entertainment and gaming industries, any other industry, the metaverse really works in a controlled or limited user set group. Now imagine me taking the metaverse, a highly developed, immersive, near real experience kind of a metaverse, no matter what the use case is, to the masses, to the millions in the Indian market out there. Seriously, imagine, even Flipkart tried that, right? They did a limited 6-day Flipverse program, because I assume at that point of time, they understood, hey, the cost versus benefit is literally flipping around. So unless we solve for a lot of basics, technological issues that we have, not only from an infrastructure, streaming, fleet management, server-side fleet management, et cetera, we bring in solutions in there, we're really not solving the problem. Let's look at other topics out there, right? We just about have Unreal Engine as well as Unity. Creating a near real experience using these two technologies is like creating a really heavy 100+ gig file. And I'm talking out of experience, right? Hosting this and streaming it to end user devices, who even your iPhone 12 or 14 doesn't have the graphics and the compute capacity and the processing power to actually render these near real experiences to your devices. What are we talking? Where are we focusing on? Just use cases, or do we need to look at a bit on infrastructure? The massive misconception that not only managing directors, but even the Aam Janta out there have, is that your metaverse is accessible from your 3D VR headset. We need to get out of that outlook. We need to look at it and say, hey, why can't I bring my metaverse to my handheld? Of course you can. Nobody says, no, I'll show you how it is done, and I'll have tons of vendors trying to show me that. But am I bringing in the real immersive experience, how easy it is to navigate, how easy it is to move forward with it? I think we need to overcome a lot of very basic fundamental barriers before we even try to create these massive use cases out there. And I think a lot of work within this space is lacking attention. The very basics of building blocks of the metaverse. Let's look at NFTs. I think it's an extremely useful, strong concept. You're really trying to tokenize or create an asset within the virtual world, give it an identity, give it a recognition, be able to trade it as you would do in the physical world, right? But what are the use cases around it? How effectively are you leveraging it? Even a Porsche, they launched their NFT, which is kind of a semi-failure, not that great performance. That leads me to ask a question. Was COVID that stronger trigger for even managing directors, et cetera, to trigger a behavioral change in the masses to move to digital, right? Including the very elderly in India. I can speak about what I know. They moved from paying cash payments on Amazon to paying digital payments during that period. You know, that's a very silly example, but it's a very strong example to say, hey, what level or depth of change, behavioral, customer experience change did COVID bring about? But hey, now we are at a phase where we are saying that, hey, the COVID hype or the impact that COVID did bring is slowing down. Right? We've got to look at how we're sustaining. We can't keep saying that, oh, now because of COVID, we did this, COVID, we did that. We've been harping on it for 3 years now. We need to get out of it. We need to say, hey, now, how do we sustain these use cases? I think these are hard questions we need to be asking ourselves and saying that, hey, do we still ride on the COVID excuse and say, hey, we're going to keep moving. People are still going to be as digitally savvy as what they were earlier. Or we're looking at another external stimulus. I don't want COVID to happen again, but to trigger that kind of a similar push to our customers and say, hey, bring in. And if you look at the way managing directors, a lot of my managing directors across Mahindra Group companies, they're exploring the use case of metaverse. They're asking what kind of an ROI do I get on it? And I need to be very realistic when I say, hey, this is the kind of ROI, and very brutal from that perspective, right? A lot of them want to term it experimentation, but do you want to call it experimentation? I don't like POCs personally, or experiments. That's my 2 bits from my side. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine, and thanks for pointing this out and painting a good reality check. I mean, you look at latency, you look at the concurrency limits that we have currently, you look at the rendering quality, right? The bandwidth, buffering, right? All these are real life challenges that you face in India over the loss that you typically want to gloss over. But interestingly, when we did the analysis, when we asked the CEOs, there was a good analogy with AI. 6 years back, we had asked the same question, and approximately similar responses came in that about 57-58% of the people were implementing or creating those use cases around AI just 6-7 years back.
Absolutely.
So
But Achyuta, that is a fact, right? My definition of metaverse is where Web3, blockchains, and AR, VR merge together.
Right.
Web3 is heavily AI dependent.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is that it's similar. The path is similar. It's just 5 or 6 years behind, so as to speak. So that's where we are coming from. But I see Shouvik. Shouvik, you want to quickly?
I'll just make a quick point. Rahul mentioned about avatars floating around each other, and that's a genuine problem. When we actually started with an onboarding, use case, there were a lot of people who sort of misbehaved in the metaverse. So, there's a technology solution to it. We create a circle around you, and you cannot enter into the personal space. So we are actually talking about those kind of problems also. And one which Jasmine mentioned, yes, Unreal and Epic, Unreal and Unity create like gigabytes of experience and all. But we are actually working with a tech called as pixel streaming, where, the entire experience is streaming on a cloud. And just the way Netflix streams a 4K movie onto any hardware of choice. So pixel streaming basically streams the entire pixels and the movements to your devices. So in that way, we are trying to reduce the dependency and the entry barrier for a very, very high-end experience. But yeah, great points in the forum so far.
Sure. Jijit, quick one.
Yeah, I can talk it quickly, like whatever Jasmine has mentioned. So in Tata Elxsi, because the metaverse has started as a buzzword just 2-3 years ago, but we were having virtual worlds and multiple avatars, interaction, etc. So we had done a lot of optimization onto avatars, like for example, high resolution avatar with texture picking. We can actually bring it to 6 kilobyte kind of like a footprint. And of course, like Shouvik mentioned, pixel streaming has been a very important aspect. So some of the technological difficulties, like graded experience for a XR device, or even for a like taking it to a normal mobile phone. So this kind of things are easing out, I would say, and this is what going to be like increasing the adaptability of the metaverse. It's not just like metaverse is all about XR or AR VR experiences. It can be a browser experience, it can be a mobile experience. The main part is solving the problem, and once the problems of the people are solved, then it's on flight. And metaverse is actually we can define it's a version of the internet. So internet doesn't require any impetus like COVID or anything. So the new evolution of internet is what metaverse is. It's like the 3D version of the internet. Right. So COVID or no COVID, it is actually it is trying to grow, and that is why Gartner has put it as one of the 9th of all the 10 major technologies that we have to look for.
Sure. Shubhra, quick one.
Yeah, 2 key things I wanted to mention. So first on the aspect around ROI. So with Metaverse, if you think about any innovation curve, we are very much at the starting point of that innovation curve. The innovators, the great entrepreneurs of the world have created some great technologies. Right. Early adopters, like many of us here on the call, we are adopting, we're testing it for those different use cases. And to Jijit, to your point, we're going to find the right use cases where we are really solving for true problems. And as that happens, the evolution of these technologies is going to move hand in hand. And that's when we'll see that next big jump where we'll see the early majority and then the late majority, and finally the laggards catch up to it. So just like any innovation takes some time, we'll see the same with Metaverse as well. And this is a repeat, right? It happens with pretty much every technology. The second key thing I want to mention is the discussion around why the Metaverse matters. So COVID definitely caused some trigger, but the bigger trigger is the difference we are seeing in human behavior, which started even before Metaverse, which is the need to feel that we are part of a community, right, that we belong to a tribe. Companies which have been able to use the concept of community effectively much before Metaverse, Web3, Those are the companies that have been able to get exponential growth. That's one of the key attributes for exponential growth. And so Metaverse and Web3 technologies combined, they are enabling that new culture, community-based culture. They're also enabling fluidity in the systems, especially in organizations. There's a huge shift towards autonomy, towards moving away from hierarchy. And we'll see that happening in the future more and more. So we call it at EY, super fluidity in the enterprises and ecosystems that's already emerging and will continue to emerge in the next several years. And the technologies like Metaverse, Web3, DAO, NFTs, all part of that ecosystem, they're the ones that are going to drive that super fluidity even more, or I should say, enable that super fluidity, and therefore the adoption will increase.
Yeah, I think good point, Shubhra. So, strong brands who have built good followership, loyalty, tech companies who have actually built those community, coders, developers, right? Probably we'll see some of that happening from their side. In fact, our analysis, when we looked at the same question on, what kind of use cases do you see happening? We divided into 4 categories of stakeholders. We looked at customers, we looked at employees, we looked at enterprises, the end users, and then we looked at suppliers or vendors of technology, right? So if you look at customers, what we found, and I think some of that resonated in this discussion also, I think customer engagement and marketing, virtualizing of the sales channels, multi-channel customer support, token-based customer interactions. I think some of these came out as key use cases in our research. Now, from an employee perspective, reimagining the learning and development, immersive recruitment and onboarding, the example that I think Achyuta was talking about, augmented workplace collaboration. These were 3 or 4 use cases from an employee perspective. And from enterprises, right, the one that Shovik, you pointed out, digital twins for production, digital twins for product design also, that also came out strongly in our research. And from a supplier perspective, what we saw is that how could, enhancing the supplier engagement, the collaboration ecosystem, all those are important use cases in our analysis. Jijit, you have a point? You have your hand raised still?
Oh, sorry. I just.
So moving on to the next question, I think, things have gotten interesting. There's a lot of point of view coming in. So how does India differ from the world? How does the India metaverse scenario differ from what's happening all across the world? Is there a difference, first up? And what kind of India specific use cases do you see? What kind of challenges? I think we touched upon it in the previous question also. And how's our growth journey faring when it compared to the rest of the world? And just for some context, we did some research on Web3 last year. What we found that almost 50% of the founders look at India only as a delivery or a talent development center. They don't look at India as a market. Is that something similar in Metaverse? Do you see, what's your thoughts on the India opportunity? Yeah, I see. Judith, go ahead.
This is one area because the organizers want me to talk, because I am doing a lot of things on the India cultural content, etc. So I have just a single point in 1 minute I can say is when it is in Indian context, culture is an important aspect of Metaverse. Because the starting point of it is that the government of India is looking for digital museums which are to be converted into Metaverse, and this is going to be adopted by various cultural organizations as well, and create cultural experiences. So as Shubhra has mentioned, it's all about tribe and belonging. And so in an Indian context, the culture and cultural expressions and the metaverses which are created for like expressing a shared culture, this is going to be a big thing. Maybe we have not started anything, we have not seen a big traction, but at least there is a digital museum kind of things are coming up, and there are a lot of interest from state and central government to do that. So just a quick point, and I can share in my chat, I can share some of the cultural related metaverse ideas which I have floated. Maybe to avoid taking a lot of time, so I can just conclude it, and we can have it discussion prolonging in a kind of a common chat, something like that. So this is just one point I want to bring in, and this is one main point I want to bring into this particular discussion. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Judith. Prajot, can you go next?
Yeah, thanks. So, for India, I think, right, like the IT field, right, the metaverse will be similar to what's happening all over the world, but there are some specific use cases that I be thinking of. And we have been having this problem earlier, but Metaverse actually brings a solution. So we think of all of us are digital natives, right? We know how to use cell phone, how to use WhatsApp, how to forward a message. There's a huge population in India who have cell phones, but they don't really know like the digital natives how to basically log into a Zoom meeting, right? So the interface of cell phone is 2D, right? Although the experience can be 3D. So one thing that we can see with Metaverse, right, when the form factor of all these devices become small enough, right? They can also learn to use WhatsApp or interact in collaborative spaces, without having to learn. And many of especially the senior citizens are hesitant to learn, right? And they're huge population, right? Because India has a huge population. Our percentage is very high, and they are not really into all these digital experiences because they don't want to look at a small screen and interact or even use a laptop, right? But if you can get it into their spectacles or something like that, which is much smaller form factor, which is a big hurdle now, right? Because all the Metaverse 3D experiences, the devices are huge. So there you can actually experience and learn, right? How to use your debit card. You can actually show them how it can be done, how to protect yourself from spam or phishing attacks. Just learning that, right? With in Metaverse and actually using them, right? So forward a message using WhatsApp in 3D, right? So those are imagined interfaces that don't exist now, right? But it will make it much easier for non-digital natives. That's a very specific thing I'm envisioning. Yeah.
Sure. Karthik?
Sure. So let me first of all say that I don't profess to be an India market expert. So my views are probably those based on what I'm seeing around me and what I do feel from an opinion perspective. I do think that there's a kind of a mini digital divide in India between a niche urban segment that can afford hardware and so on, and the lack of affordability among others. But having said that, right, India still had the world's first metaverse wedding. We still have probably metaverse influencers that I don't think are existent in other part of the world, right? We have production houses creating media as well. So I do feel that, like how we had mobile first content now being created, we potentially on the entertainment industry, I do feel that there might be content created for the metaverse targeting a specific segment, for example. That could be one of the use cases that might come up in India more faster than somebody else because of some investments that we're already seeing in that particular space. I'm seeing some very niche kind of use cases that are coming up. I'm sure my friend over here will talk about it, but mental health therapy is one of them, right? We have some of them in the on the healthcare space where we have simulation-based therapy, for example, that's coming in, it's not necessarily for a widespread population, but it does help individuals in certain areas, and it can provide some unique use cases as well. Those are areas where we can be pioneers too, right? So those are probably the ones that I can think of where, as a nation, we might take a lead in coming up with new use cases, trialing them in specific niche areas, and then that can become more of world leaders. I'm already seeing that there are people who are going ahead and coming up with those innovations, coming up with those products, investing in the right spaces, not necessarily meant for a mass market consumer use, but maybe meant for niche segments and so on.
Sure. Jasmine?
Sure, thank you. When I look at the Indian market and the Indian consumer behavior over the past few years, right, what really matters are two factors. What can you create that can go out to the masses? And I'm talking about the masses to be a hit, to get that ROI. The second part is the cost factor. Right now, no matter what you create, you're still spinning out instances and you do have a cost per click. Now, if you build in dollars, right? You see, most of our solutions, even if it's technology, it's so westernized. You need to really bring it down to India and then renegotiate and say, hey, this is what works in our market. You do it or you leave it, right? So quite and large, I'm looking at two key parameters when you say Indianization, irrespective of any sort of consumer divide, right, that exists. And I totally agree with Karthik that there is one segment of customers or consumers who come from the urban, more privileged, or even the tier 2 cities of India, who at least have a decent handheld that can run a basic metaverse. But then there's this another 70% of the population that do not have decent handhelds. How do you bring it down to them? Still big question mark. But by and large, in order to bring it or cater to both segments or whatever the strategy may be, you charge a premium here or not there. I'll leave that as an open topic. But in order to bring it to both segments, you do need to look at it from two angles: the masses, how do you bring it out to the masses, and the cost. And as of right now, even the best of infrastructural players, whether it be the leading cloud players, they don't have the most optimum solution. So that's my take on what I see India and India's behavior. And yeah, it's not just a delivery center. I think we can do much more in that space.
Yeah, I think that's where we're looking for. Shakti, you've had your hands raised for some time.
Sure. Yeah, so if you look at the last decade or so, Achyuta, we have seen that the digital, the terminologies and the technologies evolving. We observed that the emerging economies are the countries where willing to experiment and explore more than the developed world, and that has helped a lot of those Southeast Asian economies to thrive using digital. Now we are seeing a similar pattern with Metaverse as well. So if you look at in the Asia Pacific region, if you include Middle East as well, so there are places where the governments are now looking at Metaverse as a medium to connect with the citizens, and that, like everybody spoke about here, it is just about connecting with the masses. And obviously the infrastructure and other adoption challenges that is going to follow, but we are closely observing as to how it is going to evolve. Now, coming to India, India is not going to be different in my view, because if you look at in the last few years, Indian government has taken a lot of steps, right from the way they created that UPI during the COVID times, which has helped us to kind of go expand, connect people, to now what you see in this ONDC that was launched very recently. I think the government is creating the necessary infrastructure for us to connect to the larger masses.
Right.
But anytime when you look at technology, in my view, there are three different entities minimum, play here, right? One is the government, which reaches out to the citizens and then bring them as a consumer for the corporates. The second is the corporates themselves create those the technologies with the use cases and reaching out to their end consumers and employees in a way. And the third is the startup community, right? That's where the creativity and the innovation comes in, and they create a new market which was never there for any of us to even think about it. So if you ask me, yes, the government has got all it takes to do it, and we see them being very open today, and they are actually taking a lead in a lot of these. And the other hand, the startup ecosystem. I know we have a few of our colleagues here from the startup. They are willing to do something new and explore. Now, where we would see the challenges like what's spoken here, Karthik and Jasmine spoke, connecting with the masses is still going to take a while, because the digital divide is going to take the infrastructure challenges, adoption, all of them will take. But depending on how we define Metaverse, in my opinion, it could change. If you talk about more of the virtual experience, collaboration, yes, then you will have this haves and have-nots. But then if you look at creating an economy where people are going to come together in different ways, like the Web3s and tokens and all that, that could change. I'm personally watching the space around how RBI is going to introduce the CBTC, and probably that could also be a game changer for us.
Thanks. So Sakti, I spoke to someone and he said, that person said that, hey, India is not ready for Metaverse yet because Indians are not lonely enough as of now. So that's another point of view that some people think. But Shouvik, over to you.
Yeah, I think I completely agree to your point, Achyut, that India, SND on my current company and my previous company, Cognizant, KP smiling because I worked with him. It's not India was never really the focus market. We always focused on North America and Europe. But India is a land of opportunities. There are so many entrepreneurs creating micro metaverses and etc. But two specific use case which came to my mind was just recently we were talking to one of the government officials as a personal capacity. They wanted to really, plan and imagine smart cities onto the metaverse, right? How do we do the smart city planning on metaverse? How do we get the, the architects of the world and visualize how a smart city should be planned, roadmapped, and, train the trainers kind of thing. So those kind of conversations, India is already having. And if you already know that A.R. Rahman, one of our top music, the top music director, has actually created the NFT platform where his idea was all the young talent should come and they should own their music. Right? Typically, their music is owned by the record companies now. So he wants to tokenize their music and keep it into the world of NFT so that the musician owns the music and they can get some revenue. And as KP was talking about mental health, post-traumatic stress disorder therapy, those kind of work is something which we are actually looking at like an influx, and India is investing in these kind of platforms today.
Yeah, I think as a location for development of interesting ideas, yes. In fact, we do some work on the G20. We're working with the government on that. So yesterday I was on a call and there was Sabir Bhatia from Hotmail, the 1997, the old guy, right? So he was there and he was saying, hey, you look at startups as numbers, revenues, operational metrics. Just forget that and just look at them from an innovation perspective. What big ideas do they bring to the table? What new things how do they expand your thought? I mean, don't look at them as maybe profitable businesses that they'll evolve, but, see what kind of ideas they can build. So I think that's interesting that, a lot of the startups that you see have brought out some of the ideas, but how do we take to market? The scalability part becomes important. On that note, Rahul.
Yeah, I think everybody, while I've been saying, I was trying to write a few notes, and every time I would write something, the other panelists would cover it. So
okay, next question, I'm going to go to you first.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. But it's very interesting because it definitely, what it means really is that we are in sync. All of us, we're in sync because whoever is thinking is progressively going to the next step. And each one of us, the good news is we all agree to each other, which is not very often, in a panel discussion, and here the flow is that we're looking at. So my viewpoint is a similar question that I ask executives when I talk to them and work with them. Is one, how many of us really had an iPhone 10 7 years back? We had one or two. Like I have an iPad without the camera. I still remember standing in Florida, outside the store and buying that iPad, the first iPad that didn't have a camera, but it still works. The good news is it still works. Because the fundamentals are very, solid. When they designed the product, they really spend time on designing the product, then thinking of selling the product. So every metaverse or the metaverse platform that's being built, the only ones who will last will be the ones who are deep diving into it. The surface level opportunity that people think, oh, this is like any other social media Web 2 era. I mean, there could have been, there are some very large companies who tried to build a social media like Bridge, for example, was being made by Naukri, didn't work. The one that Google had, where they were running similar to Facebook, didn't work because there has to be a very, very structured approach when thinking of building a new tech. So hence, I believe it's meant to be a very serious exercise when it comes to even thinking of building a metaverse, and using a metaverse is way beyond a thinking. It's meant over the next 1 or 2 years. It's only meant for the top 10% or the top X%, either the enterprises or the market per se. It's only meant for the privileged 10%. If the X is 10. So the reason why I say that is there are very, very few people who will ever buy a VR headgear for 30,000 rupees or a Quest 2 or whatever new things are coming up. And of course, they will all want experience and things like that. So it's meant for very few. It's upon entrepreneurship, I think, at the core of it. It's all about entrepreneurship in terms of whether and what will happen to this industry. And I think one of the panelists mentioned about this, that there are startups who are coming up and, who are trying to build something. Each of these startup is not a metaverse company. Each of these startup is trying to solve a problem. Whether it is Siddharth's company, he's trying to solve this fan club problem, in some way, which is different or in the context of, Web3 or a community building, and much more, Siddharth. I mean, your business must be much more than what I've understood in the last 2 or 3 minutes of your talking. And And similarly, I believe a lot of these, entrepreneurs who are going to create systems and those small, modules will make a very good fit. We are the biggest youth market in the world. I mean, we have the most young crowd in the world. And now we've just crossed 140 CR also. And that's like counted as if everybody has been counted there. I guess there's another 50, 60 we don't know. Somewhere in Orissa, next to Bhubaneswar, 200 kilometers away. I don't know. But definitely I know one thing, that we have that youth is born on the touchscreen. This one. I was born on a regular phone, like a home phone, plastic Beetle. I started from a Beetle, or the Chakriwala phone. This generation is born with a touch phone. So what's happening is the adoption rate of this particular tech will be very fast, because in Roblox or other gaming, if you see, 4 or 5-year-old kids are playing. Very interestingly, and the context is so interesting, because yesterday evening in a dinner meeting, sitting down with a Metaverse company, a CEO, and he said, this is what he said to me. The two daughters, he has twins. The two daughters are in different 2 rooms, but she will only open the door if the other sister goes on the Roblox while playing the game and rings on the game. The sister says, go and play with me. Then you ring from there. Then I open the door. You can't knock my door and think that I'll open the door. This is yesterday night over it. I've never heard it. This was so new. So you see, therefore, now it's a point, whether it is enterprise, small business case, solve a small problem, then go solve a bigger problem. Similarly, like the way Shubhra said, oh, we are doing team meeting, but then we are going to, I celebrated my birthday, and somebody will say, okay, I want to do some couple of events, then some town halls will happen. Slowly, steadily, adoption rate within the organization will become better and better. And this is the same process, like we are not so adapt to change. My guess is that a lot of people will also show a lot of resistance when it comes to such experiences. But over a period of time, at least in the B2B space, over a period of time, those business use cases will be built properly. So I am very bullish, on the small solutions in the metaverse, and that could really bring a lot of value.
Sure. Thanks, Rahul. Siddharth, quick one.
Yeah, quick one. So, so we have had some, again, very different kind of experiences. We are working on the whole sports ecosystem, and we have had discussions with the government bodies, sports bodies, to understand, what can be done. Last year, we started a B2C platform with the whole NFTs as the core of it, and where we face a lot of problems around, why are you guys using a cryptocurrency to do transactions, right? So we got a massive pushback from the boards. We talked to BCCI, we were in discussion with, the Indian Hockey Federation. They all are looking at creating solutions for them, specifically when it comes to the metaverse. And these guys are not looking at putting their, assets in other metaverses. They are looking at creating their own metaverses. From that angle, what we are also seeing is that, right now the opportunity is to build a lot of capabilities, for these brands, right? Across your payments, your cryptocurrency, digital assets. So there's a lot of things coming. In fact, Star Sports has launched a metaverse called Starverse. I don't know if you guys know about it. It's called Starverse. Okay. Now, as part of the sports ecosystem, we've been discussing with them, and their major challenge is they don't want to build it as a XR VR kind of a platform. They're very clear about it. They want to build it as a browser-based platform. They want to focus more on the browser, okay? Because it doesn't make sense to have XR VR. Geo is launching their glasses, Tesseract, and we are part of that launch also. We are trying to deploy it on that platform. But what we are seeing is that where is the adoption right now, right? XR glasses coming, there's a lot of challenges. We're building it on Unity, then moving it to the whole XR platform to launch this. So adoption will take time. Even in the existing metaverses, where is the footfall? There are no concurrent users. Decentralization, Sandbox, all are struggling right now. So from an India perspective, I think India will see a lot of new innovations, which is very focused to India. When it all comes from the behavior of the culture that we have, and also the security part of things, right? The KYCs, these will be very stricter in India, and we are getting there already. We were completely rejected by all payment gateways because RBI sent a notice that you cannot use fiat currency to do any digital asset. Okay, so we had to then find solutions. We moved to Polygon. We built, created the whole thing on Polygon. We had to get out payments from outside to integrate on my platform for the Indians. But then it is not working out. If you know the whole payment ecosystem today, by default, a user cannot activate a Visa or debit, Visa or MasterCard, which is in a foreign payment gateway like Stripe. Okay, so these are a lot of challenges. Payment has been a massive challenge for us. That's one of the reasons that we have not been able to kind of push digital assets within India, and we are hopeful that some changes will come, hopefully later this year.
So we will come to the policy question in a while. Shubhra, your point of view?
Yeah, so short answer. So I personally, for the last several years, have had limited opportunity to track India's economy in this regard, and most of my perspective has been based on America's economy. At the same time, coming from India, I'm always very proud of what India is achieving year by year. So in a recent report published by EY, I learned that India is going to be the largest economy by 2052. And there's literally an exponential growth curve that's going to take that forward. So what's interesting is a lot of that growth will happen because of that ecosystem, startup ecosystem that already exists in India. And to a lot of the earlier panelists' remarks, it's going to be based on creating the products catered to the Indian economy. So certainly we'll see a lot of growth of these type of Metaverse Web3 products. And then the additional thing I wanted to add to Rahul's point is the growth of the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and them driving the adoption of these technologies. So the way I like to think about it is that just the way millennials drove the growth or adoption of digital technologies, because those people have been digital natives. I'm a millennial myself. The Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I like to think of them as the metaverse natives. They'll live and breathe in these worlds every day. Like I think Achyuta, you mentioned an earlier stat that you mentioned, like they're spending like 9 hours a day in these worlds, right? So they're so accustomed to that. So as they go even into enterprises, or they start to engage more and more with enterprises, there will be a natural expectation from them to see more and more of metaverse interfaces, whether it's going to their workplace, whether it's going to a contact center, whether it's meeting their own community. So I think that's going to drive an adoption heavily in India as well.
Right, Shubhra. And thanks for pointing out the ecosystem part, because even for Metaverse, right, to enable value creation for any organizations, they can't do it alone. I mean, for infrastructure, you need all your cloud guys, right? For device, the operating system, other hardware, you need AR, VR, 3D scanning, haptics, consoles, PC, smartphone, all that is there. Then there is the developer and creator platforms, which create, design, which, core engines, backend services. You have your virtual worlds which may be, gaming centric or social centric, like you said, industrial centric. And then you have the content people. So there is this ecosystem that needs to be developed. So that's your bang on. But quick one, suppose in India, you didn't have any issues, any challenges around infra. What would be, let's look at this as a rapid fire round. One top use case for India over here, for, what's your top use case? Suppose you did not have any of these technological issues, challenges. Maybe I can go with where's Rahul? Rahul? Okay, Rahul is not there. Maybe anybody wants to take this?
If you don't have the technology challenge, I think education tech will be one of the pioneer use case in India, because that's something that touches life of 100,000 people in the country.
Right. Any other options?
I'd say retail.
Retail, yeah. I was also thinking, yes, retail, definitely. Any other area you feel where we can make a huge difference, Metaverse can make a huge difference in India?
Yeah, I'd say elections, right? because tracking people and experiencing that, waiting in lines, right, and getting more people for elections, and and blockchain in Metaverse actually helps traceability and tracking, right, and preventing duplicate voting and all that.
Right. I think we are what, about 55-60% today, so that can definitely move to about 90% there. Yes, Karthik, you were saying something?
Good one.
I was still go ahead, Sakti, please, after you.
No, I was going to say that that's a good one, Prajot. But I would say that let's not underestimate what Shubhra and team has done, right? The co-working, it could also gain more momentum with people distributed across multiple tier cities, not just the technology related corporates, but every other industry potentially that could also help.
Right.
No, I love the education use case that Shavik gave. I also probably think that I'll stick with the entertainment, for example. I do feel that it'll become mass in terms of how we want to adopt it. We could think of unique use cases in healthcare, for instance, as well. Right? Expert SME support at the time that we need it.
Sure. Yes. Yes, Shubhra.
So I just wanted to add that even the industrial metaverse use case, the smart city one that someone pointed out, especially with the traffic and all the needs around optimizing and incorporating efficiencies across the network, that will become critical too.
I think banking will also see a lot of traction. I've already seen a lot of my ex-bank guys already starting to work on the metaverse for banking. So think about the whole virtual experience entering into the bank through that ecosystem and customer service there. So that's one area. On the financial services side as well, I see a lot of traction.
I think that's the beauty about India, right? I mean, all of you gave different examples, and there was banking, there is entertainment, there is education, there is retail, industrial, right? All that is there, and I think that's where we say that you solve for India, you solve for the world. So let's see whether infrastructure can be sorted out quickly. But moving on to the next question, I know we are a little bit behind time. What will moving on to Web3? I mean, what will India's Web3 adoption look like? 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Do you really see Web3 adoption going up, because it is essential for Metaverse to really grow as we speak? So, any thoughts around it? Opening comments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with what ChatGPT is doing anyways is a huge AI shift, and Microsoft's investment in there into OpenAI, that brings in a lot of competition to Google. So I think there's going to be some really big shift in AI coming in, and invariably, of course, Web3, because AI plays such a critical role in Web3. So yeah, that's a very short note for me.
Right. Shavik?
Yeah, I have a slightly, nuanced view on that. I feel there's a lot of regulatory and other compliance complications that would probably slow down the adoption of Web3 in India. I did have the chance of working with the government when I had my own startup, and I know they are really, really critical about adopting decentralized economy. I think I remember a sentence by the RBI governor saying that cryptocurrency doesn't have any tangible value also. That's debatable to a large extent, but I do think the Web3 adoption will take a lot of time, slightly more longer in India than any other country in the world so far.
Are we considering blockchains as part of Web3? Because I look at it as two
separate.
Of course.
Yeah, Web3 is blockchain.
I look at Web3 more as an intelligent internet. Okay, it could or could not be powered by blockchains. So that's where I think clarifying a bit of the underlying definition would be valuable. I do understand the reservation with RBI and the rest of them with blockchains and with cryptocurrencies and so forth. But if I had to slice that out and look at Web3, and AI and immersive tech, I think there's massive, huge potential, especially in learning. I just read an article yesterday that ChatGPT got a grade B in a Harvard Law certification, and it's also completed its MBBS, medical degree, and so forth. So I think there's huge potential, especially from an AI perspective.
Right. Prajot?
Yeah. So I think one of the key challenges to Web2 is that, right, in India is that most of the providers or the owners of these Web2 ecosystems are outside India, right? So I think Web3 actually gives us a good opportunity to disrupt, right? And like government of India is disrupting the payment space with UPI, right? The bigger players are really trying to get into the space, right? The other thing that I actually see the parallel with, if you see the Web3 architecture and the ONDC architecture document that government has published, a lot of similarity. It's a distributed marketplace that trying to create, which is actually parallel the many of the Web3 concepts. So there is a chance that a lot of startups in India can actually grow and become big because you are actually using the Web3 core, right? Where nobody owns all your data, right? And if somebody becomes successful, that you can actually disrupt the bigger players, the Web2 players in the market, and it's also an opportunity for the Indian ecosystem to actually stand up in that big world marketplace, right? Like UPI is being in demand across India, not just in India, across the world now, right? Other countries are also asking for it. And ONDC is actually supposed to disrupt the existing players in the e-commerce marketplace. So that's a great opportunity that I'm seeing for India.
Sure. So that.
Yeah. No, so I feel I slightly will differ with Souvik. Web3 will definitely pick up because capability building that is happening in India is going to be faster. First of all, government, what they are saying is that don't use a platform like Polygon or Ethereum. Use Lakshmi, that is ours. Okay, so they are going to open those APIs for builders to build on top of it. That's where whole CBDC, everything will come in place. And that is where, we'll see a lot of development happening. I'm part of few Web3 developer communities here in India, and it's buzzing with so much of products, so much of investment that is coming up. Everybody is looking for solutions to plug it into every damn small, area, So I see a lot of, growth happening in this space. Even government is looking at it. They are not saying that they want to completely say, they are only saying don't use crypto. Okay, so
right.
Yeah,
Shubhra.
So the way I think about Web3 is really about ownership. It's about the ability to own something, right? And it's also enabling better engagement with the brands by owning the tokens or the assets. So again, going back to the human mindset, the desire of humans, we like to own things. And if I think about India has some amazing brains, amazing minds. They're always thinking about how to make better money, how to solve more problems. Web3 is the technology that is going to enable new business models, period. All the different industries are going to be disrupted because of the new business models it can enable. And therefore, your question about will Web3 gain adoption in India? I'm confident it will, because humans want to adopt, humans want to own things, and the best brains in India are going to create new business models to enable that ownership. So there is demand supply that's going to match, and that adoption will happen.
Agree. In fact, on the topic, we did some work last year when it comes to Web3. We focused on the startup ecosystem. What was interesting, what we found is that more than 450 Web3 startups in India, almost $1.4 billion of investment raised by Indian startups in Web3 in the last couple of years. We have 4 Web3 unicorns and almost 75,000 people with Web3 talent present in India, with blockchain talent present in India, makes us the 3rd largest talent pool in the world after US and China. So I think, all those are positives. But when we ask them what are challenges that you face, and to your point, Souvik and I think someone else also raised it, clarity in regulations and governing Web3 adoption, that came out as number 1. Almost 85-90% of the people said that's my number 1 challenge. You sort that out and everything is all is good. Second was around having the right amount of people, invested interest in Web3, etc., etc. But the first one that came out was, policy support and what was stake. And we said, okay, we did some back calculation and what's the cost of the missed opportunity as we move forward in the next 10 years. What we've seen is that almost 60% of the startups have already relocated their headquarters from India to outside of India. They have the delivery centers over here, but their headquarters have moved out. the VC funding that we received, that 1.3, 1.4 billion we're talking about, that's at risk because that may stop. And the potential economic loss, we believe, is about $1 trillion for India by 2032 in the next 10 years. So, the largest economy in the world, that's not probably happening in case we are not able to really, handle these technologies. And what we thought is making sense is that, don't regulate the technology, but regulate its usage, regulate its conduct, how it is being used, what are people doing with it. You cannot regulate a technology and say, hey, this technology is going to not work or work, right? I mean, something on those lines is what we had suggested. Second is, how do you embrace a risk-free regulatory approach? How do you create sandboxes? How do you start, working with the ecosystem rather than saying that, hey, this is it, this way or the other way, right? And third is, beyond crypto trading, cryptocurrency, right? I mean, the moment you think about Web3, you have those connotations. So how do you really adopt crypto technology-based use cases, which is beyond trading and currency? I think some of these were some of our suggestions in terms of addressing the policy conundrum. Happy to hear your views on anything else you feel we need to do from a policy standpoint.
Just to add to what you said.
Yes, sir.
This is very interesting. A very interesting conversation is happening with the Bollywood, contact, and these are very typical business people, And so he's talking to me and says, in Punjabi, Mumbai, he says, in itna simple menu samajh nahi aaya kisi ko. Matlab nobody was able to make me understand so simply. But he says in the conversation to me, kehna Paji, a legal shigal te hai na, andar to nahi ho jaenge. What he was trying to say, is it legal? Because he doesn't want to go to jail. I'm scratching my head. I said, no. It's completely legal. A small film, the film fraternity, the artists, the directors, the script writers, they write the scripts and they also sometimes record a few episodes before they go to OTT platform, because OTT platform will not just simply take their script and go make it. Now, they also leave those to many directors or sometimes production houses, very large production houses. So they have plethora of scripts. One fine day, suddenly somebody looks at the script and gets the idea, goes, makes a film. The person who truly wrote it doesn't get the credit. This fight, because there is a copyright association also in Mumbai. Jasmine, you're aware of it, right? Yeah. And now he goes and fights around for the next 20 years there. No output. Look at the small business case of a Web3. That script which is there, if somebody is able to create a technology that can link it up to the fractional ownership of all the way to the end of the whole cycle, meaning that everybody becomes a part of that ecosystem. Now, if the government comes and says, you cannot do it as an NFT or you cannot tokenize it, either the guys who are building it will shift to Dubai, or the government will make sure there's a policy they will have to shift to Dubai. The choice is not to live here. The Web3 companies, because the Web3 companies are going and registering themselves in UAE or Slovakia, another country in Europe, small. I just recently heard that they were doing hackathons in India for blockchain developers. And these are hackathons which are huge. In JW Merit, like 3 days of party and 3 days of gala, a whole ballroom, everything booked in Aerocity. And I was a part of it though. And after the hackathon gets done in the evening, all these top 5, top 10 folks, they get the good talent. And next thing is they will say, this is your salary, you shift to Europe, Portugal, in Lisbon, Slovakia, and a couple of other Eastern, European countries. They're actually taking all the guys over there. So there is a huge opportunity for us to actually build it in India. The problem is that the policy framework is unclear. Now, crypto is not legal, but crypto is not illegal, but crypto is also not legal. And the crypto is legal, Because if you get the money into the bank, you pay TDS, but then because you haven't disclosed it, there could be another tax notice saying that you haven't disclosed. This is one very grand example, which I will just quickly finish, Achyuta, in about a minute, but very interesting, I think, for all the audience. And I cannot take the name of the production house. It's a very, very large production house with all the confidence. The Web3 head of the business was talking to me. One of the oldest production houses in India. So they're launching NFT marketplace. And since we are a part of community, he was kind enough to come on a Google to show me as to what they're launching, because he just wanted me to see. So he said, Rahul, come at 9 o'clock. I'll show you. Just give me some advice in terms of how we're doing, whether we're doing. I want your viewpoint. Now, the one question I asked him was, you're a listed company. As a listed company, you cannot do a crypto transaction. It's not allowed. As a private limited company, you can still do it. But if a listed company cannot have two currencies, actually, meaning you cannot have an Indian account and a USD account in India. That's now it's not possible. It used to happen some 10 years back. He says, no, we don't have they're launching NFT marketplace. They're spending good some 5 or 7 crores and they have a huge team. Okay, now in Web3. The answer was, we don't own the NFT platform, but the company which owns the platform is in Canada. The Canadian company has a team in Pune, but they cannot sell this platform to anybody. But we don't own the platform. I said, then where does money go? He said, the money goes to the Canadian company. The Canadian company now tells us these many NFTs are being sold. We bill the company in Canada and the Canada company gives us the money in rupees. So I said, great. But then what do you write in that? Because you would write something, na? He said, for that, we have got how many? 11 lawyers we've spoken to. Each one of them has told us, no, you can do this business, we'll take care, because we have found all the business cases and all the issues that happen. Isn't it this a mockery? Not from a creator's perspective, from a policy perspective.
Right.
It's so difficult and complicated. Who in the world wants to go start a business with a lawyer? In India, it doesn't happen. In India, we don't bring a lawyer when we create a company. We bring lawyers when there's a problem in the company. We are not America. So this has to change. And I think as we move ahead, and these businesses are unstoppable. Listed company, one of the oldest production house, they are going ahead and they're launching NFTs, means this is unstoppable. And I would really, really believe that every stalwart right now on the panel, I think we are all contributing to having the pressure getting created in the government that here something has to be done. So let's see with this budget, I think some changes might happen. And we're also having G20 presidency. So I think, I hope that in this topic, we are not the ones who are, who are dictating our terms in India. I think here we have to listen to everybody and do something, collaboratively on that.
Yeah, but Rahul, I guess next time we'll see you in Slovakia only, I guess. So, but I see Prajot and Shakti raising their hands. I mean, do you guys want to go first?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So, like we've seen in the IT industry, like last 25, 30 years, right? The role of the government is very critical in growing the industry, right? And we have seen that the government actually saw and created this exclusive economic zones, right? And we have seen that clusters growing around those places, right? And all the cities, all major cities. And that is itself is pulling in more and more people, and our economy is growing. Like cities like Bangalore would never be so big unless the government support and the IT industry, right? So Metaverse is a parallel thing, right? We can see a decade ahead. It could be a big thing. And if government works to positively to support that industry, there could be a huge growth in a separate angle, which is not just pure software itself, right? And because it's a lot of content and experience and transactions, right? Market. And we are, like others said, right? There's a lot of challenges, right? Because government will see, is it disrupting the government itself, right? The government's currency itself? Of course, they will regulate it, right? And so if government can play a positive role, right, and identifying the opportunities, right, and this involves many of the bureaucrats and our investors, right, even learning how it works and identify the opportunities themselves, right, And if it works, then this could be a different story, another story for India.
Agree. Shakti?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at the technology advancements that we've seen in the last couple of decades, the inherent assumption was that they are not disrupting the ways of living, the ways of working, or the ways of doing business, right? So you bring one platform after another, enhancement of different technologies, including digital, is all about digitalizing what you already had. But if you look at Metaverse and Web3, in my view, it's slightly different because Metaverse is creating an alternate, just like the Second Life, we spoke about, right? It's more like you creating a new world in itself for people where things are going to happen, especially after you're doing the digital, tokenization, assets and identity and all that. The Web3 is expected to decentralize a lot of things, including the currency aspects. So obviously that is going to disrupt the way we have looked at our life in itself. So that is where I think we go back to, what the role of government in how we are going to do this business going forward, or even create any use case and make it bigger. To me, besides the policies, Achyuta, I think what is also important is that the various departments or the ministries that we have, it's going to touch all of them, or many of them rather. So now they are going to see a lot of conflicts in the way they have framed their rules and policies. Now there is no Uber department of sorts which is going to look at everything and solve it for Web3 and Metaverse to flourish. Okay, and even if there is, I already see, from a political angle, between the collegium and the government, there is an executive branches fighting right now. Anytime when you have an issue in a Metaverse or Web3, even for the corporate that Rahul spoke about, when you go for remedy, the legal system in itself is not prepared to deal with a lot of these as well. Not just about the delays, but also their ability to take, give priority and solve your IP rights problem or your privacy problem or a security problem. These are all going to evolve in the Metaverse and Web3. So to me, besides the policies, I think we need to, the government has to look at a lot of things differently and prepare themselves for us to, do our ways of living in the Web3.
Sure. And I think kind of builds to one of the questions we were trying to address here. And I think there's agreement on that awareness about Metaverse, about blockchain, about Web3 is very low in India. I mean, beyond this room of people, beyond those who build careers in it, I don't know whether there is enough awareness at a consumer level, at an enterprise level, at a government stakeholder level. So what are some things that we can do as stakeholders to really enhance the awareness? Any ideas, any thoughts? I mean, of course, we could organize events and sessions, but is there anything specific, anything else anything new that you think we can do to really drive this awareness and understanding of the technologies? Legal but not legal, not legal but legal. How do we really address that?
A government-sponsored hackathon, would be a really great start. And bring doing an outreach to the entrepreneurs who are there already in the Web3 and providing them legal counsel on what is legal and what is not legal would be really amazing, because the entrepreneurs today are actually shaping the future of India. So we should really start with them for sure.
Yeah, Rahul.
Yeah, I follow a little desi strategy of creating awareness. I believe that in one principle in my life is jitna ko miloge utna milega. If I was not here today, then I would have not gotten all the chance to learn so much. The government and blockchain are two very sensitive combination, or the group. The government is bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is, let's say, 25-year-old. They were trained on a computer, and you've recently seen that the recent Netflix series on about the Bihar police and all that, where the commissioner asks that, oh, why is this computer so small now? I want big computer. That bureaucracy, the new generation of bureaucracy which is coming up. Now, when they are sensitized, that is one change that will happen. The second part is that the blockchain community has to little bit go away from this word called crypto all the time. It's creating negativity. Blockchain is not crypto. Blockchain is a infrastructure where you can design different kinds of applications. The amount of news that we create on Bitcoin the amount of news that we see on the other, crypto going down, crypto getting killed, crypto this, crypto scam, crypto wallet scam, it's so the negativity is so high that it is just, creating. So it's creating that, so negative vibes around. So I think the genuine blockchain business cases, the metaverse blockchain combination of, use cases are the ones that people are taking on a day-to-day basis into the government. I was recently looking at Achyuta, that a company called, I think, Genesis, which is creating a whole metaverse of India. I was just watching their video like 2 days back, where they are actually doing the whole metaverse. They're doing 3D scan of cities. And this is a highly funded company. The goal really is that they want to create a metaverse which is geo-mapped. So you're essentially on a Google map, and on the Google map, you are able to go inside the building. So they're scanning buildings. And these are all government-backed projects. I mean, there's no way that there is absolutely no way that you could do a geoscan of a locality without having the government's permission to do that. So the genuine business cases are the ones I think has to be the entrepreneurs have to take it back to the government, to the young bureaucracy. And I think once even small, I think there's always going to be small steps. So maybe a few business cases, the government will say, okay, fine, we'll support. And I agree, Shouvik, with you that the government-backed hackathon, in fact, the first time I've heard government-backed job fair. Okay, forever, but I've never heard a government-backed hackathon. So all of these things, I think you could take this idea back to the HR ministry or the other skill councils. And I think once that starts to happen, okay, the mass adaptability will happen. And let me be very honest here, by my data, they don't think that blockchain exists right now in the market. Like it's not in Bangalore. No. Was one of the events of La Bank, which is a crypto event I was a part of. I asked a very senior guy over there who's also a panelist with me. I said, I'm here. I'm trying to meet like 40, 50 people. I'm unable to find even one guy who works. Everybody is talking. So who is working? Because I'm here to talk to people who are working, not the people who are talking. His answer was epic. He said, they are on leave. I said, but leave, where are they? He said, because right now it's college leaves going on. The talent is in colleges. The talent is not here. The guys, the folks, BTechs, who are studying, they have that time to learn. The guys who are already doing DevOps, the guys who are already into some kind of existing practice, they cannot take a leave from their general work to go and elevate themselves to that, or do a cross change of in their career. So I think that is also one area where I think we have to understand. And tier 2 cities, let me be extremely clear here. Tier 2 cities have the largest chunk of blockchain developers today in colleges, not the tier 1.
Sure. Agree.
This is I think just a process, now and in the next 6 months and 1 year when we'll meet, then Ghosh Babu will have a different conversation. Let me be honest with you.
Agree.
We'll have a very different conversation.
Sure. Shubhra, quick one.
Yeah, so I wanted to add on to Rahul's comment. So these words for sure, whether it's crypto, whether it's NFT, DAO, metaverse, by the nature of how they sound very cryptic to 99% of the people. And so we need to find ways to simplify it for them. And so in the last several months, the way this has been simplified for, let's say, the different companies, their CXOs, has been by giving them a taste of real use cases. Like I've done demos of metaverse, but doing demos didn't help. But the moment I asked them to step into the metaverse and they experienced talking to other people in the metaverse, they experienced capabilities like spatial sound, that's when the light bulb blew up. And that's when they had the aha moment. And so that's where they start to realize, okay, what's the power of this technology? So I think we need to bring in some real use cases to light. So when I think about masses and the relevant use cases there, a couple of interesting use cases emerge. One is the customer support or contact centers I was sharing earlier. That's one thing that majority of us customers no matter what, we reach out to customer support for different needs, whether it is a utility company where we have to pay our bills, whether it's a telecom company where we have some kind of problem and we need resolution. And I would say 95% of us do not enjoy those customer support conversations because they are a pain. And that's where Metaverse can really solve that pain point. And that's where even a government, 1 or 2 pilot agencies, if they are willing to set their support in the Metaverse, let people, masses come and experience those. That's what will help drive adoption and even an understanding of these technologies among the masses. That's one. And on the Web3 side, like here in US, we saw PepsiCo led an amazing campaign where 350,000 people signed up to the rewards, which were all NFTs, but most of the masses didn't even know that's an NFT. Again, that's a really good way to get that education process going. So both in Metaverse and Web3, I would say bringing in real use cases. And from an education perspective, having your education itself or university itself in the Metaverse and leveraging NFTs and tokens in the Metaverse, again, can give very hands-on experience to a lot of people.
Sure. Karthik?
Oh, I think Shubhra took the words out of my mouth. Actually, no, she explained it much better than what I had originally articulated, right? So I think spot on with what she said. I don't think we need to create awareness on technology. It's probably awareness on the use cases that probably, and I would expect that the experiences in the Metaverse are supposed to be more intuitive, right? And I think people would learn. I don't believe that we actually had awareness on what we are doing today. It's expected to be more intuitive. People would pick it up, whether on the enterprise side or on the consumer side. What we probably need to be more mindful about, and therefore possibly educate, is on the behavior on the metaverse itself. Right? There are a lot more, how do I say, ethics related, etiquette related, behavior related issues. It's almost like a different, a way of functioning, a way of working, and therefore there are aspects that we probably need to be a lot more cognizant and aware of, and that might require some enablement and education, not a technology enablement, but how do we use it? How do we behave in those spaces? What do we actually do? How do we, what kind of issues might crop up that we want to really educate people on is probably where my mind is today.
Sure. I know we are running out of time, so just moving on to the last part of our discussion around people, talent. We just touched upon it also in this earlier question also. But do you think India has enough people, quality people, to really accelerate the pace of metaverse creation? The POCs that we talked about, projects we talked about, use cases, right? I mean, do you think we have the quality? Do you think we have the quantity? And the second part is India has always been an export center when it comes to people. Do you think metaverse is an area where India will need to become an import center in case we do not believe that we have the right people there? So happy to hear your views. I see Prajot and Shavik raise their hands, so you guys want to go first?
Yeah, thanks. So this is my first-hand experience. Okay, so I've been actually trying to grow a larger metaverse team, and this is something that I really find, right? Even the normal cloud skills and AI is also niche skill, but metaverse even more, right? It's most of the people that we get skills is from the gaming programmers, right? And for them to move to metaverse, it's like a career change, right? Because you are set in your world, right? The good guys. Asking them to move to metaverse is a big challenge. And the other aspect that is not known is it's not just the 3D modeling or the big blockchain that is enough to build a metaverse. There's this design, experience design, which is not even defined, right? There's no role in the market where you need to define experiences for people for spaces that do not exist, right? And those who do not have this experience tend to just copy the real world, right? Copy the bank branch exactly, copy the retail store exactly, which is not leveraging the capabilities of metaverse. So, and the other thing I've heard is, like we are good in IT, right? Poland is a top country where these 3D modeling design gamers are existing, right? So maybe we should look at those countries, how they are doing it, and copy some of the ideas, right? How we have done in metaverse and 3D experiences and blockchain. And especially blockchain, if you try to get a resume, you will not get anything. You try reach out to 10 agencies, you probably get 0 resumes. That's a big challenge, and for taking up the metaverse projects and executing them, especially at larger scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shavik?
Yeah, sure. So, so we don't look at metaverse as one skill set, right? It's a composition of many skill sets. And, we just put out a quick report in the Times of India last week where we said we have a couple of 100 people in metaverse, because when we were actually started and implementing metaverse projects for our customers, we realized we need 3D designers, we need mobile engineers, we need integration specialists, we need cloud specialists, we need blockchain artists. So the whole, and most importantly, AI, right? How do we actually use AI and data to augment the experience inside the, the metaverse part? So to your question, right, we do have the talent. India has been one of the most versatile and most creative talent pool, that when we actually go and talk, if you go to schools like NID, they have some really great game designers coming out from there, and they have some really amazing idea, a very, very fresh take on, how do we approach the metaverse part. So yes, we do have people, we do have talent, and the excitement among the new college graduates to learn and adopt and scale in this particular field has been really, really great. So from the talent perspective, India does have a very, very bright future in this particular space. I think we would be one of the strong house in this technology very soon, and we will continue to export. That has been our breadwinner, and I don't think we should be ashamed of that. We really run the world in some or the other way, and we would continue to run the metaverse world too.
Sure. Shubhra?
Yeah, I would just add on to Prajot and Shauvik's point. So Prajot, you mentioned a key point about experience design. I think that's where I have very similar perspective, that especially coming from US and being aware of the Indian skills in the market, I think India has a lot of great talent when it comes to technology, when it comes to business. The experience design and having that human-centered mindset, maybe I need to be educated there to see, yes, India has enough of that talent. But as of now, I feel like that's an area where there is a need to add a lot more calories to make this an even more immersive experience, which is designed for the human, for the ways to really drive it forward and make it more engaging experience for people.
Agree. Shakti?
So I would rather classify the talent that is required, let's say broadly, into 3 buckets, right? Maybe there are 1 or 2 more. One is obviously the technical skills that are required. That I totally agree with folks, who mentioned that, yes, we do have the talent. Different skill sets exist in different forms, we can take them. The second is the experience or the art, design, all of that. So I know Shubhra and, Shauvik spoke about it. I totally agree that there are design colleges that are churning out talent, but they are not necessarily, good enough to, create that metaverse world, in my view. Probably they're just about months or years away. The third is a functional or the business experience that is required. And they're all locked in different pockets, right? Because when we talk about creating new use cases, people who understand some of this end-to-end business process are important in designing those. So that talent, again, is locked in different places, but they need to be brought together for creating this Web3. That's one dimension. The other dimension is that I think, Achyuta, we need to go beyond that, the skills, right? You'll find skills, somebody who can do a scripting, somebody who can do DevOps. But for Metaverse and Web3, what you need is you need to look at the roles they are expected to play. For example, even if you say experience design, it is not just creating design using any of those prototyping tools, right? It is farther beyond. For example, you are creating a spatial sound. You need to be looking at, how do I design some game thing? There is an illustration. A lot of different things that needs to come together. Again, I'm not saying that talent doesn't exist, Achyuta, but they're all in different industries playing in a traditional way. I think we need to have a different way of grooming them to come mainstream for us to help in doing all of this, whether it is an entertainment industry, whether you want to create your own Web3 economy. That role-based skill view is very important in my view.
Agree. Jasmine?
Achyuta, I think the question should be not whether India has the talent, whether we're able to retain the talent.
Yes.
That's it. We do have it.
Agree.
Most of the Web3 companies, we are in an absolutely same situation that we were when I started my career, say 2000, and I was in HCL, the BPO Infinite division. infinite, and then eventually after 5 years, it became BPO. What were we doing then? We were hiring people, giving them English training. We were calling trainers from the US so that they can be trained on the US accent, and that accent has become a corporate accent. And now those people who have been trained over a period of time, they are now, the ones who are interacting with the customer. There's other set of people who is I was hearing Sakti saying about the role-based skill. That is a tech training or tech skilling. The tech skilling will continuously happen. Organizations who want to scale, they will have to have a hire to train model. There is nothing called a train to hire model.
Yeah.
Why train to hire won't work? Because why would somebody get trained if he does not get a job? People never get training because they want to learn. No, people want to train because they get a job. So hire to train will work. And the ones who will create the biggest of the ecosystem are the ones who will definitely succeed. The other very important and a very critical area around talent management in this industry is, how could you have the best of the talent within 15 kilometers of your office? Imagine I'm having my office here, X place. Now I cannot hire a guy from Gurgaon. I live in Noida. No Gurgaon guy will come to my office. Remote working is the key in this trade. Companies will have to excel in remote working. So talent for this industry is not going to be ever restricted to a city. Talent will not be restricted to a geo. It is going to be always restricted, and the world is the oyster for this talent. You could hire a guy in Hungary and they could do better job than a guy you could hire somewhere in the US. So hence it becomes very important for companies to look at a remote working model in this space. So
Yeah,
all of that combined will work.
Will this become a volume game, or will this become a specialized?
No, this will never become a volume game.
Never.
This will never become a volume game. It's
Yeah.
meant for very specific. It's like movie business. In a movie business, you can say Bollywood produces the maximum number of movies in the world. Bollywood is the biggest in the world. Shah Rukh is #1 in the world. But if you look at the total GDP contribution, that will never cross 1%. My presumption says it will never cross 1%. It is a creative game. So being a creative game, there is definitely going to be the best folks available here. And the ones who cannot creatively think out of the box, cannot deliver creatively, cannot go deep dive, will have to exit from this industry. So hence it is not the similar, it is the different apple, if not a mango.
Yeah, and we may draw some parallels with the gaming industry for that matter. I mean, where it was maybe 15 years ago and all, it was relatively small, but today you see a lot of gaming and entertainment, developed out of India for a lot of the global players. But it's not really shot through the roof like some of the other sectors happen. So that's something that I think we are looking at. But I know we are out of time. Anybody else wants to have another shot at discussion, and then otherwise we can just sum up and.
Jasmine has a hand raised up.
Yes, Jasmine, go ahead.
I think, sorry, just very short note, but I just genuinely feel that Metaverse has massive, huge potential. There's no doubt to it. But there are some very basics that need to be solved for, and nobody's looking at it. We are all looking at the big picture, the big strategy, what needs to be done. But, even from a startup perspective, I do feel there's a huge potential on interfacing to end users, not just via CX or a UX experience creation, but from a hardware infrastructural handheld creation. And whilst these glasses and all of that is coming in, I think we can do better than glasses and VR headsets. But my 2 cents to it. Look at holographic imaging and so forth. Sorry. Thank you.
Right. So I think great. Very, very interesting discussion. I think all of us learned a lot out of it, especially me. Key takeaways, right? There is tremendous interest when it comes to Metaverse across verticals, across different customers, right? Huge potential is there, but are we ready yet? Maybe not. And variety of reasons. Infrastructure, people, culture, policy, and the demand side and the supply side coming together, investing in POCs, building capabilities, right? All those are pieces that all of us as stakeholders, whether we are a large organization or a startup, will probably need to build on. And I think this is a good entry discussion on this topic. Would like to thank Global Talent Exchange for arranging for this discussion. Also would like to thank all of you, exceptional leaders, entrepreneurs, technology gurus in this panel for your time and insights. We've recently done some work in this space. I'll share that link for the report. You could have a look at it. Great learning experience for me personally, and I look forward to connecting with you and for future engagements with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Lovely.
Thank you.
In fact, I'll just take a minute before we, wind up.
Sure.
Yeah, I certainly was immersed into the discussion totally. It was wonderful listening into each use case and so much happening in this, space. I'm really excited for the future to see, how our children grow up in the metaverse and stuff. We do have a group called as Technology Game Changers on LinkedIn, and we'd urge you to actively participate and share your expert views on that group, so that the rest of them kind of get to learn more in terms of what's happening around. In fact, a copy of this recording also will be shared with you later this day. And we will come back to you for more such, discussions in the future. Thank you so much for being here. Lovely having all of you on this Wednesday morning. And yeah, Republic Day tomorrow, so it's almost like a weekend for people in India. So have a great, holiday tomorrow. Thank you all for joining in.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank you, Jai
Thank
Hind.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much all. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.